Debbie, come talk to me. Make sure you check your energy. We must be honest. We've all been hurt before. We've all been broken. Oh yeah. But let's talk about love, lust, sex, and trust. Oh, yeah. Baby, we just getting started. How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with your companion? This is everything we talk about on the show. Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.
Welcome to Relationships Matter, the podcast. So one of our core principles is healing our relationships. But before we can heal our relationships, we have to identify what needs healing. So today, we're going to be talking about toxic relationships, signs, types, and how to cope with it. So I want to be clinically responsible. So I'm going to read the definition of a toxic relationship. A toxic relationship refers to a detrimental and unhealthy connection characterized by behaviors that undermine one's well-being, such as emotional manipulation, disrespect, control, and lack of support. So Josh, I want to pose this question to the both of us, and I'll let you go first, and then I will follow your lead. How do you know when your relationship has become toxic?
Well, first, I think it's good to also talk about from the standpoint, it's just not your personal relationships. A lot of us have friends who treat us this way. Absolutely. A lot of us have family that treats us this way. And it gets tricky when it's somebody that you feel is supposed to have your back. Right. Somebody that tells you they love you, somebody that's around often, but they behave in this manner. You know what I mean? And for me, when I think of some of the toxic relationships that I've had in my life, those relationships are when people try to be controlling. The disrespect is at an all-time high. And I think a lot of us can recognize the loud disrespect, but we don't understand the subtle.
Talk about that. Talk about the subtle disrespect. We got to break this topic down.
We do, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I think small things that people tend to might be forgiving is when you try to express yourself, right, and you don't feel heard, right? Even if a person lets you talk, even if you feel like you're getting it off, but the way that they respond, right? It can sometimes in some situations be loud, but I feel like, in my opinion, that's one of those subtle things. Yeah. I'm going to let that person talk, say what they do, and I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. So even though you might feel like, okay, I expressed myself, I got it off my chest, but then that person's behavior still is in line with doing the same thing that caused you to, express the things that you expressed prior to.
But I think, so it's one thing to get it off your chest, but what good does it do if the other person isn't listening?
Absolutely.
Right? So I think for me, if there's something that I want to communicate, I want to know that I think when a person continues to behave in a certain manner, it's because they haven't been heard. So you may listen to them and give them that space to be able to unload. But if you don't see any adjustment, or if you don't see any change, then I can see the behavior continuing. And then also I want to point out too, because it's okay for two people to have a disagreement. It's only when the exchange becomes intense, or then you start getting into that area of being triggered, right? It becomes intense. Then you kind of tapped into something from the past. And if it continues, then it can lead into just having like a toxic relationship. But if you have a disagreement with someone and, you may have a heated exchange, you can have a disagreement and not be toxic. But I think it's important that both parties listen to understand and not listen to respond. I think, one of the things I feel like, as long as the other person is talking, that's the most important thing. Even if you're angry, upset, but you're talking, then I can sift through the emotions and I can filter out what it is that you're trying to communicate to me. It becomes a problem when you shut down and you're no longer talking. Then that's when we have a bigger problem.
See, a lot of people can't sift through those emotions though.
Okay.
A lot of times, right, when people talk about, being toxic, they feel like, oh, you're yelling or you're speaking to me in such a manner, but it could be something that you could be extremely passionate about.
Right.
And we're all human.
That's right.
I feel like we take out the human element when we try to control so much of how a person wants to express. But you hit on something key from the standpoint of I can get through that and only focus on the messaging, right? Versus for you, it's like, I don't want you to shut down. You know what I mean? For me, I want a person to freely speak and express what it is and however they need to express it. My issue is when it starts turning into there's no accountability. You want to point the finger. You want to disrespect me in the process or degrade me and do stuff like that, because I feel like a lot of times people name call, they want to try to hit you below the belt for whatever reason. And it's like, I done been called everything under the sun. You're not finna get under my skin. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this, because you don't start off name calling. How do you even get to the point where that's okay? Like, what is that even like? As I was preparing for this show, I was even thinking about, like, how do you get to the point where it's okay to call someone out of their name and be comfortable? And that's probably because there has been a tremendous amount of offense that has not been addressed. And now we've gotten to a space where that person is becoming toxic because they're internalizing this, not having healthy communication with their partner, friend, or whomever they're having this exchange with. And so now it's boiling over into the communication.
This is my opinion.
Okay.
But I'm standing strong on this opinion because for me it's law.
Okay.
When people tell you that they love you, love is such a strong word, right? And for those who mean it, you're going to always at least treat a person, you're going to think about them and treat them with some type of respect, even if you get out of pocket for a second, right? You might disrespect somebody, but immediately you'll be willing to apologize or whatever that looks like. But if you really feel like you got to disrespect me, call me a bum, say I ain't this, say I ain't that,
that hurt me.
Call me,
just listen to you say that, but go ahead.
But because these are different relationships, you know what I'm saying? And whether it has been the mother of my children or child, whether it has been somebody that used to be one of my partners, you know what I'm saying? And now I'm all kind of N-word this or, I don't use that language, so I ain't gonna, I'm trying to keep it, but, or whether it's been family or a woman that I was dealing with.
How do you get to the point where they're calling you these names though? How does it even progress to that point?
Because I think it's when people want to control. I think it's when you don't respond the way that they want. I think it also has a lot to do with their history. And maybe for them, they feel like that's a way to get your attention.
Right.
So there's different things that are involved, right? When we get to the root of relationship, you got to start with a person's childhood.
True.
That's my opinion. I know there's studies, there's all kind of information that's out there. But to some people, that love looks like that. They grew up watching toxic. So for them, that's normal.
Right.
That's right. Then we get to a point where we're adults and we have relationships. We might have kids. We might, whatever it is. And then you might start saying, well, this don't look or feel right.
Right.
Or I don't want somebody talking to me like that. So for those people, you don't want somebody talking to you like that. Check yourself and watch how you talk to them.
Absolutely.
It's got to go both ways.
Right.
And that's the thing with a lot of people. We're not doing that because we're already hurt and we're claiming that we love a person. We're claiming that this person is our friend, family, or, family is nothing we could do about. But in your personal relationships, we're claiming like, I love this person, I'm invested. But the minute that person doesn't move to your beat, you're already ready to disrespect them or do otherwise.
So how do you reconcile that? Because for me, when I think about my relationships, and I've had a tremendous amount of failed relationships, I don't think I've had one where we consistently called each other out of our names. Like, I think for me, that's like exit stage left. Like that's in line with abuse for me. So how do you manage those types of relationships where we're calling each other out of our name, because that's disrespect. That's on a whole nother level, in my opinion.
I don't necessarily think it's something to manage.
How do you, so in your real life, how do you manage it? Like, what do you do? Do you continue to have relationship with these people? Mm-hmm. Do you set boundaries? How do you manage it?
That's a great question. And we'll get back to it after this break. Relationships Matter, the podcast. We'll be back shortly.
Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. Now, before we get back into this conversation, guys, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Relationships Matter Live. Now, Josh, before we went to break, we were talking about toxic communication and how to set boundaries. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that I empathize with, and it may be because I don't have children, but I don't know what it's like. Like, I feel sorry for you guys sometimes because you take a good amount of abuse, right? And I've seen it before. I've read it before. So, and then even as a woman, even though I don't have children, I mean, I know what it's like to go through heartbreak and to be temperamental and to be emotional, but then also to be mindful and to be respectful. Tell me, how do you manage those type of encounters when you experience disrespect?
That's a great question, first of all. For me personally, that's a reason why I do the work. Mm-hmm. And why I continue to stay on my journey, why I continue to stay in this Bible, why I continue to, work out or do whatever that's for my mental and emotional and spiritual health. Because it makes me aware and it helps me understand situations or circumstances or people. Mm-hmm. It was funny because I had somebody that used to be a partner of mine. You feel like you can confide in these people, you're talking to them, about life and just a lot of different things. And it's funny because, on one end, a person makes you seem or feel like they love you, that there's a respect. But then on the other end, you hear from other people what's being said and even through their actions. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I address it. Try to have a conversation, mm-hmm. happen once, happen twice. Not saying it's the same situation, but I try to address it because mm-hmm. if this is somebody that I care about, we're trying to figure out what the issue is. But then eventually I'm going to make a decision that's best for me.
But
and I can love a person from afar and let them be, about their business.
Now, that's a partner, right? Because only so much disrespect for me that I'm going to take from my partner, because they ain't really my partner if they disrespecting me, okay. Right? We have situations where, okay, maybe you hear they may have said something negative about you. Maybe you guys had a falling out. Mm-hmm. Okay, we could talk through it. You expressed your opinion. That's one scenario. Now, it is not going to keep happening because you're not going to be my partner. But what about these relationships where you have children involved, or maybe past relationships, because you can't just cut them off per se.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to manage it. You got to be able to set boundaries because you have to do it for the children. How do you not get angry, or how do you not cut somebody back when you go through these types of experiences? And I guess I can ask this question because I know a little bit about some of your history. So that's where I'm asking. The question is being derived based on some of my own knowledge of some of the experiences. I want to talk about it.
Oh, that's fair.
So how do you manage that as a man? Because first of all, you a man, right? It's a certain way you treat a man. You don't talk crazy to a man. You be respectful. And if you don't feel like you can be respectful, then you remove yourself from the situation.
I agree.
So how do you, then you 6'9" too. So that part I struggle with too. Like, you my friend. We may have a disagreement, but I know there's a limit. I know there's a stopping point.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how do you manage that?
I think and it's not just for men, I think women as well. I feel that us as people, we receive a lot of disrespect a majority of the time from our loved ones and people mm-hmm. that we have confided in or built relationships with. And they continue to do things over and over again. Myself personally, there's different things to break down because for one, at the end of the day, this is the mother of my child or the mother of my children.
But does that give them an excuse?
It does not. It does not. Okay. But I'm sharing with you. I'm removing their power because I'm the person with the power.
Absolutely. Okay.
So I want to make sure that we understand that, you know, talking to the men that might be dealing with stuff, or even women if you have children and it's a complicated situation, understand where your power is. And I'm not going to allow any one of those women to have that power, right? What I mean by that is you can talk and say all that you want, but remember, we laid up together. We had a relationship prior to, right? And with that in mind, we now share a child or we now share children. So therefore, for me, no matter what I could personally feel about one of the moms, no matter what experiences I've had, there will be some respect there because we share a child or children. And that is where I try to keep it because we're always going to be tethered. Like this is what it is for the rest of our lives. This is a family, even though it is a broken one and kind of, you know what I mean, to a degree, but this is still a family. Right. And these children need to see, they need to see healthy.
See,
you know?
I got to interrupt you because, you know, you give people a pass because you have children. I just think that's so unfair. And I don't think it's fair to you.
Okay, so what do you advise I do? Curse them out?
No,
go crazy?
I don't want you to do that. But I just think.
Stand up on mine and tell them about themselves?
No, I think that is very important that you set healthy boundaries for yourself.
I have.
Because you know why? You matter. Regardless of what happened in the relationship, you matter. You have feelings too.
You're right.
You hurt too. It's not fair for you to be able to experience that hurts. It's not right. And then the next day, you got to go and talk to these people. That's not fair.
So you know what I do, and I keep it at the forefront is focus on my children.
Right.
And that would be my advice to anybody because that removes anything personal, right? Yeah, I have a history that I could speak on from each situation. I could run receipts. I could do the whole show, but it's not going to change. It's not going to do anything. So I try to just solely focus on the kids because you can't say that you really love your children if you're willing to do X, Y, and Z in regards to the mom. That's my personal. You know what I mean? I don't claim to be the best. Let me put this disclaimer because I'm going to beat them to the punch and other people that's going to see this and you want to comment. I don't claim to be the best partner. I don't claim to be the best father.
So then in their defense, because I'm a woman too, I think it's important because I just think about myself. If I ever get that angry, it's because I'm not being heard. So I think a lot of us, when we get belligerent or we act out, is because either we don't feel like we're being heard or we are being understood or you're acknowledging how we feel. You know, like you might gloss over and say, well, we're going to focus on the kids. But you can't, it's hard to do that when you have all of this anger built up on the inside of you.
Okay, so my thing would be this, right? I'm not dealing with these people in one situation. It's a long time. What you mad for?
Well, because
right, because I could start asking all these questions. So my thing would be, if to your point, if we're going to address it, if she's going to say that she hasn't been heard, what you mad for? There's been a significant amount of time, right? There's also been other factors that have come into place where I've helped out. I've reintroduced, you know what I'm saying? That you were somebody that was, you know, living in my house. Like there's a lot of things that were going on that I've helped to, you know, make the best situation in regards to your relationship with your child or whatever that is. I don't speak ill of none of these moms. Now, when you speak facts, somebody might say, well, you talking bad, but that's not true. Because the other thing that's in my, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but the other thing I do want to say real quick is a lot of things that are brought to my attention are coming from the other side. So that source.
Mm-hmm.
So what you've done is you've involved these children in adult matters. Mm-hmm. Now that puts me in a position where either I got to discuss it, right? Mm-hmm. Typically what a lot of dads do is we leave it alone. Mm-hmm. But then it comes to a certain point of time as these kids continue to grow and get older, mm-hmm. you got to address it, right? Because if I'm raising my kids to break these patterns mm-hmm. and to stop these cycles, y'all got to know facts. Even if that makes me look crazy to y'all, I would rather you know the truth versus to live on a lie and to continuously treat me or other people based off of that lie.
Well, I think that's the issue of healing, but we'll continue this conversation when we come back.
Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.
So before we went to break, I was talking with my partner here, Josh, just about how he set boundaries in some of his relationships with your children's mothers. And one of the things that I want to add as a woman, because you say, well, they've moved on. And I'm saying that healing has not taken place, which is why these experiences keep repeating themselves. Even if they move forward and date other people, they have not moved on in their emotion, which is why you will continue to experience those things until that healing takes place. But then we were also talking about myself. Mm-hmm. And you said you wanted to ask me a question. So ask your question.
I mean, I just want to know for you, there's been a relationship or a situation in your life. And again, I know that a majority of this is personal, but I feel like family and friends, those things have a great deal to do with our upbringing, a great deal to do with how we view relationships moving forward. It's just extremely detrimental, and just wanted to see if you can dig into your experiences and kind of, speak to that.
So I date differently, right? I don't do the casual dating thing, and I definitely don't settle. But I could think of an experience where I would even venture out to say that I was a toxic one.
Oh wow. Okay.
I was attracted to someone, and because things didn't go in the favor in the way that I wanted them to go, then and we had a friendship as well, so it wasn't like a situation where it was just some random person. This is someone who I had a friendship with. I would continue to. I didn't understand why not me. So because I didn't understand why not me and why maybe the next person, I would pick arguments,
right?
And that's toxic,
right?
Because whatever my issue was in that moment wasn't the real issue. It was more of a wedge issue. So whereas you might make it out to be something in that moment, it was really my inability to be able to have the type of relationship that I wanted, which in turn eventually ruined the friendship.
You know how big that is for a person because a lot of times, we sit up there and say like about the other person or whatever in the situation, but for you to start off and say like, it was me.
Oh, absolutely.
You know how many people don't want to admit to the fact that you could potentially be the problem?
Absolutely.
All of us, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's exempt from any of that. You know what I mean? And for me, like the other way that I look at it as well is like, even if you're a person that you don't want to agree, also be the person that never takes away from somebody's experience. Right? So being strategic in how you respond, because if a person expresses like something that you've done to them or a way that you've treated them, even if you don't agree, just say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm acknowledging how you feel. And I'm like, sorry, I apologize that, that is your experience with me. You know what I mean? That is a part to help towards something healthy.
But I didn't have that. And I think that's why I couldn't move forward because I didn't have that. And I think there were a number of reasons why I probably didn't have that. One of the reasons was because my pride. I just couldn't articulate what I was really feeling on the inside.
What's that pride? Talk about that pride.
No, because it's like, you don't never want to tell a man that I don't, why you didn't choose me, why you like her, why you don't like me, right? So you don't want to feel rejected. Okay. You don't want to be, you don't want to put yourself out there. So I had to deal with that. But then
what is wrong with putting yourself out there?
Because you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to look
I'm about to put myself out there. You ready?
Go ahead.
Where the camera at? Right there?
Oh, Lord.
All right. My name is Josh. I fail at life every day.
Oh, my God.
I have many failed relationships, friendships, many businesses, the whole list of things that goes on. I've been cut from teams. I've been fired. I've had my back, people turn their back on me. There's been a lot of things or situations that I haven't handled correctly. I've cursed people out, people that I love. I've mismanaged situations in regards to my children. I've mismanaged situations in regards to relationships. You could even say I've cheated. I've done a whole list of things. And
you still got a tremendous amount of people that actually still love you.
Maybe. But what the most important thing is? What? I'm going to keep it right here, is I love myself. And I have forgiven myself. Okay. And therefore, that is my power. That is for me to do. Because I never claim to be perfect. I'm living life and I'm trying to figure out this thing every day. At 40 years old, as I continue, however God, whatever more God gives me. But I hold the keys. None of you women, none of you brothers, no job. I don't care nothing about the league or anything else. That doesn't speak for me. Only the Creator speaks for me and speaks on behalf of my existence and what I've done or haven't done. So there you go.
Okay, so I have to say this because I have to say this because like when you say, because like what's important to you may not be the area of struggle in my life and vice versa, right? Okay. And one of the things that I do struggle with, I will be transparent about, is like in terms of business, any other relationship, even if like you fall down in your luck, like for those people who know me personally, like I'm only 2 years removed from poverty, like no lie. So people look at my lifestyle now, they don't realize 2 years ago, I was going through it, right? And I feel like I was judged for it, but that's another issue. But the thing that I want to share is that relationships is my area of struggle, which is why I invest so much into these types of platforms, because this is the only relationship that you cannot spend money to change. Like you could try to buy somebody's love, but who wants that? Like I want someone who wants to be with me because they want to be with me. Now, in terms of business relationships, you have a couple dollars, you can make it happen. But in romantic relationships, you cannot control the other person. And that is hard for a lot of us women. Some of us, we do try to buy our way into relationships. It does. I mean, I've been there. Like we're going to talk about this on another show. Y'all might want to cut that. But it is very difficult. Like the frustration, I go through daily frustration because I'm not able to attain or not able to be in the type of relationship that I want to be in. Meanwhile, you watch everybody else, they in their relationships, marriages, and all those different things. And I got all this damn money and still can't be in a relationship. It's mind-boggling to me. That is why you see so much dysfunction and toxicity, because that's the one area of our lives that we cannot control. Period. Unless you are manipulative, and then even in those situations, it doesn't last. Even when you spend money and try to buy people's affection, it don't last. And why would you want that anyway?
I think we need you done gave these folks a whole word.
I'm just saying, like, when you think about it, it's like, gosh, nothing I do can change the situation. Like, so for someone like me, I have spent years doing the work. Years. I ain't talking about like 1 year. I'm talking about years. We almost in double-digit years because I've been single for a long time.
Can I say this?
Yes.
But that means there's something that you did do.
No, absolutely. Because I'm here sitting with you. But I'm saying I'm still have not, like I've built businesses. I've built a multi-million-dollar business and I still don't have the relationship that I want.
But again, you do.
I mean, I have the relationship with, like what you say, the Creator. I have my relationship with God, but I mean, I want.
That's the most important.
That
and
is.
Secondly, who's after that?
After God, then who is after that? My family?
No.
Who?
Yourself.
Myself.
Queen.
Okay.
Yourself.
Yeah, but I've been with myself for a long time.
Sometimes we got to go through that process and that journey.
It's easy for you to say.
It's not easy for me to say.
Says the man with beautiful babies. You know,
I appreciate that. But if I could have it another way, it wouldn't be with 4 different women.
Okay, that's fair.
And that's no shade to the mothers. I'm just saying for anybody that's listening, I have a responsibility. Like, if you plan on having children, make sure you have children with the right person. And make sure that you're having the correct conversations.
Right.
Point blank, period. And then after that, we will talk more about toxic relationships when we come back. Relationships Matter, the podcast.
Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter, the podcast. So before we went to break, Josh, we were talking about the most important relationship, which we know is with God. And then you said the second most important relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, I got to give you, and that's true.
Okay.
But you talking to a 49-year-old woman.
Okay.
Who's never been married.
Okay.
Who doesn't have children.
Okay.
Right? And I desire to be in a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
That would have rolled when I was maybe 30.
Okay.
Because people have been saying that all of my adult life. And we know this, but we still want to be in a romantic relationship. Like, you can't, I don't want to minimize that. Cause that's what make women go and do crazy stuff or act out because they're not being acknowledged or their desire.
I'm glad you said that. So I don't want to minimize it either.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm cutting in.
Yeah. And for somebody who has had those experiences, whether they be negative or positive.
Okay.
You've been married. You are married.
Okay.
And you have children.
Okay.
So it's like, it's hard to it's hard to receive that from you.
Shouldn't be.
Okay.
Because
why?
you know why? Is if a drug addict told you not to try something, would you say, well, you know what, that's your experience, or do I need to try that?
Well, your answer was based on having a relationship with myself.
My answer is also based on trauma that I had as a child, watching negative relationships growing up, being put in situations and having experiences that I shouldn't have experienced as a teenager, being viewed as somebody who's the athlete and only having people that want to be in your life because of what you do and not who you are. So this goes deep, regardless of my experiences or not. I don't say I envy you, but what I will say is I salute you in a major way, because I feel that more men and women should take the time to get to know themselves, understand what they want, how they want it to be, and not settle.
Not half of their lives though. Like not
you
half.
Look
but
at
I
it that
understand
way,
what you're saying.
right?
I understand what you're saying.
But there's somebody who's a mother or a father to somebody who's passed down trauma and other toxicities that, what if they would have took the time to get therapy or do the work or work on themselves or whatever that looks like?
When you say that makes, so now we got to the core of what you were trying to say. Because now you're saying, Chanel, it would be better to be single rather than have those experiences.
Listen, I just talked to a partner of mine yesterday, right? Just met this gentleman not too long ago, but we cool. And we were talking about, having children and just different things like that. And he was just saying how, he waited until he was 30 plus to have children. I said, bro, I salute you. I wish that would have been something, not to take away anything, right? But I said, I wish that would have been something. I don't have any regrets, but if I could do a redo, definitely would take time on having kids at a later time of day. He said, well, look, bro, I don't go, just because I waited doesn't mean I don't go through the same thing. I said, but you're dealing with it as a 30 plus year old man versus a 20 something year old man.
Right.
You're way more seasoned, way more mature. You have a lot of different experiences. The way you're going to handle the situation is different. The way that you're going to parent is different. There's a lot of things that come into those decisions that people don't think about. Because we'll sit up here and say, right, we want this thing until we get it. And then it's like, oh, that was it? Right? You spoke earlier.
That's something that's scary to me.
Okay.
What you just said is that you go through all of this, you do all this work to be in a relationship, then you get the relationship, you like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Or this is highly overrated. Like,
but I don't think when you find the right person, and again, people's self-work is everything. You should be happy on your own, peaceful on your own, all of these different things. But when you combine, right, people that come from two different past experiences, two different foundations, families, all of that, and you're coming together. So if you get with a person where communication is key, respect is key, morals, principles, and values are key, where you literally are actually loving a person, right, from a full cup versus a half or an empty cup, that's a different level. So when you're at home, say, for example, the smallest thing like being at home and just watching TV, some people look at that as boring. There are some people that can't sit down for 2 seconds because they always got to be on the go, always got to be doing something. But when you can be in the, in the comfort of your home with somebody that you really love and admire and respect and you're dealing with, and you can have this moment where y'all could peacefully watch TV and there's no beef. Y'all can hold hands, you know what I'm saying? Or y'all could just whatever and just be yourselves.
Right.
When a person allows you to be who you are, you have found your person. Many of us aren't in that space. We don't have that because we're always putting on. We have the mask and we're covered because that person will never see us. How many relationships you've been in where you can't be fully honest with somebody?
I don't know about fully honest. But
that's my point.
Not being myself.
But that's my point.
Having to
being yourself,
Yeah.
Being honest, all of those things are the things that I'm speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do that with somebody that you're in a relationship with, you can see this person naked, you can sleep with them, you can do all these other things, but you can't tell them the truth.
Right. Okay.
You got a problem.
I understand that. So talk to me about the dangers of toxic relationships and mental health.
Definitely go hand in hand. I know with me, and I would like to start again from my childhood, because there's a lot of things that I learned about myself, which translated into my relationships and how I conducted myself in personal relationships or relationships with, friends, right? Whether it be a male friend or female friend or whatever, like all of those things stem from things that happened during my childhood. So
Okay.
I know that there are so many things that I unpacked by understanding the traumas that I experienced and the lens that I grew into, right? Because I'm viewing everything based on that lens. But at the same time, that wasn't my only lens too,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that there have been, comments, people that say, oh, you love from a, what is not, I can't remember the correct term, but it's like you coming from a place of survival, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're loving on, and I'm like, there is survival, right? There's a level of that, but there's also a level of just understanding. There's a level of me working through things on my own and being able to see it for myself,
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't just stop there.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do often love from that cup because they protect themselves. They put the wall up. They know how to function, and then that's cool and that's comfortable for them. For me, I didn't want that. I didn't want any parts of that. So that's why I've always been trying to figure out and learn more and do the work, right? What I did in therapy when I was younger versus now, two totally different experiences. But it's because I want to be better. I want to be a better example for my kids. I want to be a better, husband. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better family member. You know what I mean? Even though there's a lot of relationships within my family that are strained, they may not be the best. But for me, I stay clear because I understand that those people I need to love from afar because of the situations and the circumstances. When I was younger, I would entertain that. I'm not in that place no more. So it ain't personal. I still love you. I just don't want to be around you.
I had to come to the realization in terms of toxic relationships and mental health, because for years, or even I wouldn't say for years, I would say the last So I have to go back. So when I was younger, right, my relationships didn't work because I just overstayed my welcome.
Okay.
Trying to develop a relationship with someone who had no interest in wanting to develop healthy relationship. But then when I moved to Atlanta, I had men who was judging me based on what I had and what I didn't have. And that created a complex.
But it's in relation to now, because you're correlating it to now, and basically from the standpoint of like, you fixed that issue and it still didn't solve this.
It definitely didn't resolve. And so
that's what I'm saying.
The aha moment is that it's so weird because there was a video on social media that went viral, and I had a baseball cap. And this video clip had something to do with removing sex out of the equation. And whenever I speak about taking sex out of the equation, the men attack me. And so they were like, she's old, she's this, she's that, she's not attractive, whatever the case may be. I'm like, y'all reaching, but nonetheless, toxic relationships and mental health. I just wanted to kind of articulate how, like, certain scenarios and situations that I've experienced in my own dating life has in some way impacted my mental health in a negative way.
Right.
And that is because for the first time in my life after moving to Atlanta, I experienced certain situations where I felt like I was being judged for what I had or did not have.
Right.
It didn't necessarily have anything to do with physical beauty, but she doesn't have this or she doesn't have that. And the reason I say that is because in this season, I feel like men see me differently. Like they see me. I felt like maybe a few years ago, they didn't necessarily see me. And so because of that, I struggle with that. That's a struggle for me because it's so funny how God works. When this clip where I was talking about removing sex, like when men want to date multiple women, and I've gotten to a point where at first I was totally against this whole multiple dating thing. But I said, if I do that, then I'm going to have a longer shelf value, and I'm not going to be able to, have friends or spend time with anyone of the opposite sex. So I said, okay, I'll entertain this whole idea of friendship, but we're going to take the sex out of the equation. And so whenever I talk about taking sex out of the equation and just being friends, for those who want to date multiple people, you can't date me and date somebody else. That's just not something I'm ever going to go for. They attacked my physical appearance, right? And so that same weekend, I had to do an expo. And when I tell you, so many people walked up to me and they just like, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. But then that doesn't translate into my personal life, right? So then the struggle becomes like, what is it do you have to do in order to garner the attention of mainly someone of interest? Because I don't want the attention from everybody. I want the attention from the person that I want the attention from and not anyone. But what is it that you do in order to garner the attention from a man that you have interest in? So if you fix this and you fix this, then what is it that you do?
But you fixing for the wrong reasons. If Chanel wants to work on Chanel for her personal, then you do that. And then from that, then you'll attract what you need to attract. I went through, dating phase after the first divorce. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people love the idea of an athlete, whether I currently play or retired. They see how they saw how I was with my kids, like just from things I post or whatever, or if, somebody's in Atlanta and they see me moving around my kids. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's a great dad. So now I'm attractive to you because I'm a great dad. That ain't got nothing to do with me, right? And the more you talk to people, right, and the more you understand who, what, when, where, then you can weed out through all of the BS. And for me, I was fine with that.
I got to stop you right there. I always wondered if you knew that.
Knew what?
Knew that people were attracted, because of,
You thought I was stupid?
You be acting, because you
I'm going to act green. I'm going to act green intentionally.
You be act, because Josh, you act like Josh do. He has a way of just acting like he's unaware, but he really pays attention to everything.
Because that's how you're supposed to be.
Okay.
You can't give all Chanel, but at the end of the day, let me say this, and it ain't even a dating thing. Family, friends, business, everything, all stems from relationship. Mm-hmm. If it is for me, that is what I want. If it does not serve me, please get. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. for my family, I love you. It ain't personal. But if you're not serving where I'm going, I'm cool on that.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with friends. If we not going in the same direction, I'm cool on that. I'm not spending no more time entertaining, being cool. We going out, we doing this and we doing that. If I'm boring to you, cool. I'm not your cup of tea. I just want you to own that. Not even for you, for any man or any woman that's in a position, own that. Because that's beautiful. We don't talk about that enough. That's why I was saying, for me, I salute you, because I don't think that there's many times where there are people who are not willing to just rush and just go for it just because. We have way too many people that's doing that. I can put addresses on it. I can put all kind of business out there, but this ain't for that.
Right.
This is to say that we got two people come from two different perspectives and we have two different experiences and it's beautiful, right? Yeah, I'm in a relationship now. Would I thought I'd have been in a relationship after all the BS I went through and be at this point now? No, right? But we have somebody else that your journey is just as beautiful. You know why? Because you like, man, I'm working on me. I'm not settling. And I'm cool with that, even though I'm not cool with that, but I'd rather not settle than be in some BS. Right? It don't matter the money that you had. It don't matter the money that you didn't have. It don't matter none of that. What your understanding is, these men are just on BS. Not all, but just the ones that you've bumped into, right? If they can't appreciate you for you, then it's cool. Big dog, go on that way. I'm good on that.
Right.
And that's anybody. I want all women and men to understand that, man. You got to get with people and put yourself in situations that serve. If it ain't doing that, if it ain't leveling you up, if it ain't making you grow, if it ain't challenging you for the better, don't do it. Period.
All right. So the other thing that I wanted to ask, just for the people who are watching, how do you leave a toxic relationship? Like, how do you, because now we're moving into the area of trauma bonding. So how do you leave a toxic relationship? What are your thoughts on that?
And that's a whole show. But a quick thought on it is, when you love yourself and you're putting yourself above all under God, then you're not willing to be in situations that you know for a fact aren't beneficial to you. So that doesn't mean like when somebody does something like I'm out, like, no, like relationships don't work that way. But you can give this situation 3-4 chances. This other situation might just be one. I don't know. It depends on the person. It depends on what's happened and transpired. You have to make that decision. For me personally, I'm very understanding. I'm very gracious, all of that. But if I really feel like you not matching where it is that I see myself or where I'm going, if our ideas aren't in line, ain't but so much I can do. I can slowly remove myself from the situation and be cool with that. It's not personal. People get upset and be like, oh, you're not supposed to ghost. You're not supposed to do this. You're not. Why you not? Why you not?
Oh.
If you willing to,
now that's toxic
to
when
make
you
me
ghost.
No, it ain't toxic when you ghost.
I mean, if you in a
there are some people that don't deserve a final conversation, response to a text. There are some people, man, that you just got to be like, look, I wish you well. I'm good.
Okay.
Don't call me no more. Don't text me no more. It's cool. People will say you ghosted though.
Okay.
Right? So that's why I'm putting the clarity on that, because if you feel like I got to exit stage left abruptly, then you got to do that by all means. It ain't personal, man. Put yourself first. You love yourself enough, you put yourself first.
So with this whole conversation about toxic relationships, like we've talked about the types of toxic relationships, characteristics of toxic relationships, what does it look like for a person? I want to talk about what it looks like for a person to take accountability. And I think I touched on that earlier, but for you, have you ever been in a situation where you recognize that I'm the toxic one and then you took accountability for that?
So me personally, I won't say that I'm the toxic one, but I will say that I take accountability.
You never been the toxic one in a relationship, Josh?
No, I ain't gonna say toxic. That's a heavy one. I'm not willing to take that. But I definitely own mine. If I lack communication, if I shut down at certain times, I'll own that. But to be like toxic, where I'm just out here trying to sabotage a relationship or being totally disrespectful or degrading and all of that stuff, I'm not on that type of time. That's not in my spirit. Everybody's not toxic. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say everybody.
I think everybody has a toxic trait. You have to pinpoint.
That might be fair. I don't.
Yeah, what it is.
For me personally, I don't feel that I have a toxic trait. I feel like there might be some things about me that people definitely ain't feeling. You know what I mean? And that's fair. I don't feel everybody has a toxic trait. I don't feel everybody's toxic. I feel like that some people just aren't for some people, and they're trying to force a situation that they have no business doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like my spirit, right? For me to go out of my way to disrespect you or try to be manipulative or do all of these things, I'm not on that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I feel like for a majority of my life, I've been very clear. Now I might have done some sneakiness. I might have done some, those types of things.
I'm saying.
But I don't feel like I'm on that type of time. That's just me.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's our show on toxic relationships, and we'll see you next time.